So my name's Michele Garman. I reside at 1111 Youngstown Kingsville Road, Vienna, Ohio. This is Trumbull County, a property which is contingent to the Youngstown Warren Regional Airport at 1143 Youngstown Kingsville Road. There is a company called Copper Ridge Disposal, LLC, and they are my next door neighbor. Copper Ridge exists exclusively to run the toxic waste injection well that I can reach out and touch from the northern property line of my home where myself and my son reside. My husband learned that Cleese Development Associates, KDA, was seeking a permit for a fracking waste injection well from the legal notice in the Warren Tribune Chronicle. At that point, I started learning what fracking and fracking waste injection wells were. I did not like what I learned. Fearing what KDA wanted to put next to my home, following all the proper procedures, I started asking people to object to it being placed in Vienna Township, next to a residential home and in a non-industrial zone section of the township. I even approached our trustees at one of their regular meetings. So many people told me it was nothing to worry about and that I was worried for nothing. So many times I was told the state of Ohio could do whatever they wanted to. Then in April of 2015, I remember it well because it was Easter, a KDA spill on Sodom Hutchings in Vienna Township, which is I think they had like a few injection wells on the property. They left a slew of dead animals and many residents worried about their drinking water and their health. The first thing that popped into my head when I heard the news was Love Canal. I remembered in 1978, when I was only 9 years old, the stories I was hearing about the place and the tragedy the people there experienced. I remembered I remember thinking, how do people get through something like that? And I also thought, that's it. There's no way KDA will be permitted to have their well on the Youngstown Kingsville Road now. And I was wrong. The state of Ohio and KDA Copper Ridge got to do whatever they wanted. My first concern was over drinking water and water pollution, along with spills like the one on Sodom Hutchings. I then started worrying about future health concerns. Health concerns not so much for me, but that of my teenage son, who now was about to turn 21. I wondered what effects this will have on his health at my age. There were the usual concerns over increased truck traffic. This became a reality when they began working on the facility, as trucks came by dropping large rocks onto my property and backing up the traffic in front of my drive, leaving me unable to pull out at times. Now that they are actually injecting, there's truck traffic at all hours. It does not really back up in front of my home anymore. And the strange thing is that most of the truck traffic through the facility is on weekends, holidays, and between the hours of 5 p.m. and 5 a.m. I also worry about air quality and air pollution. Every once in a while, we do get a slightly foul odor from the well. And then there's earthquakes. Who can forget the New Year's earthquake from the North Star well and the earthquakes that shut down the Weathersfield well not even 10 miles from my home? This reminds me of a conversation I had with my cousin who lives outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma. I was asking her about the earthquakes due to fracking there. She said it was no big deal anymore. My comment was, seriously, how do you get used to something like that? She stated that when they first moved to Oklahoma, they never had earthquakes, but now that they happen so often, she's just used to them. This left me thinking that is something I never want to get used to. I now fear lightning strikes, along with possible fire and explosions. Are the emergency services in Little Vienna Township prepared for such things? Is 200 feet far enough away from such things? Then there was the one time a few years back when Copper Ridge just began operating. A warning light and alarm would go off sometimes when trucks were dumping their waste. I was told by the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, ODNR, and Copper Ridge that it was an overflow alarm and nothing to worry about. By the way, every time I call ODNR, they talk to Copper Ridge. It's always an overflow problem. I just stopped calling them. So about a month later, they were drilling again, and I believe they had to replace a casing. I am always worried now that the pumps sound like they're running rough because just before this happened, the pumps sounded really strange. This does not leave me, the whole experience just didn't leave me warm and fuzzy about having them next to me. Around the time I gave this first testimony, I was also dealing with rude and hostile harassment from workers employed by KDA, Diamond, which is another offshoot of KDA, and Copper Ridge. Luckily, I don't hear much from them anymore. Something must be done. Local control must be given so that city and township residents do not have to live in fear of their neighbor. Local, state, and federal government was created to protect its citizens. They need to protect us. This is where my testimony from the last tribunal ended, which I guess brings us to what things are like now. The people that were harassing have gone silent. I don't think any of them work at the site anymore. This may also be due to the fact I just don't say much about it anymore. It seems to be old news, news that no one wants to hear. People seem to have forgotten the fear of the spill and the earthquake. And I've just learned to live with the fact that it's there and it's not going away. Yet there are constant reminders of its presence. There's always a constant hum of the pumps day and night. I kind of compare it to watching Star Trek Generations, how throughout the show, if you listen really carefully, you can hear the hum of the engines, except it's not a 1-hour fictional TV episode. It's every day for the rest of my life. Also, about 2 or 3 a.m. every morning, it gets increasingly louder. And it stays this way for about an hour or two every night. There are no more alarms. There's a voice in my head that keeps me wondering if they just disconnected the alarm. Maybe I'm paranoid. If I am, it's because of the thing next to my home. Since the last tribunal, I have gone through a divorce. I'm not going to say that the toxic injection well was the direct cause of this, but it was a contributing factor. We had many disagreements about how to react to this injection well next to us. Not long after the tribunal, a piece of my heart was taken from me. My companion, protector, and furry sibling to my son passed away, our beloved German Shepherd, Billy. I often wonder if the water runoff into the field she used to run in was a factor in her death. She had a growth that had ruptured, and it was very sudden. She died in my arms in the parking lot of the veterinary clinic. And I wonder about this cause because this water runoff goes right into Squaw Creek. I still worry about air quality. There are no monitors alerting us to the substance that we're being released by this thing most days. I don't think much about it, except for a couple of months back, there was an oily smell emanating from the facility, and it was so bad, I couldn't stand to be outside. I even jumped through the 50 million hoops needed to contact ODNR. An inspector came out the next day, and of course, the smell was already gone. One of the few small joys in my day is sitting on the porch with my coffee. That day, I couldn't even bear to open my door due to the smell. This brings me to the truck traffic. It's constant 24/7, 365, up to 4 at a time. Many times as one is pulling out, another's pulling in, almost all from Pennsylvania. The sound of their whining and screeching brakes is especially pleasing around 2 a.m., and that's sarcasm. And I'd like to end this with this thought. 200 feet. When the GPS tells you to turn in 200 feet, you best be ready to turn. This is about 70 adult steps. Walking from here to there wouldn't even get my daily steps in. This is the length of about 3 of the large trucks that pull into the well site every day. It's about 10 car lengths, the length of an NHL hockey field. How would you feel with a ticking time bomb 200 feet away? That's how I feel every day.